Make retail great again. So not political, it's just because it sounded good and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I did have some hats made out, make retail great again. And if you're walking down the street, you're just wincing a little bit, hoping people see the word retail, and you don't get it very political in there. So I appreciate your time. This is my sixth Imagine. Since some of these guys know some of my background here, and we'll get into that. And it's a big topic. So my goal today is I want to talk about making retail great. I'm going to put some of the core things that I've spoken about before into this so you understand the framework of it. And yes, we're going to talk about building a huge wall, as Carl says, a huge wall as a defense mechanism against your competitors and what's going on. And I'm going to go one further. I'm going to give you a philosophy that I think we can get Amazon to pay for it. How's that? Right? All right, let's see what we can do here. All right, this is me. I love building great commerce companies. I've done a bunch of them. My mission is enabling other people's success, and I've had a lot of fun with it. We'll go over some of the companies. I've created over $1 billion of value for shareholders and for some of the founders and et cetera during my career. I love what I do. I've been fortunate to work with a bunch of great companies. Here's some of them, and we're going to go into a couple of these along the way. And we're going to go into a couple of these along the way. You heard a lot about Tamando, or you heard about it today. We're going to touch on Tamando. I'm going to go into Nordstrom. I'll tell you what I did there. I'm going to use it as a case study about how to build something that's defensible and the right way to look at it. W Promote is a 185-person digital marketing agency that's in El Segundo. And Magento you know of, and you may or may not. I saw a lot of people stand up when they said this is Imagine 1. I got to tell you, I'm extremely proud of Imagine. We birthed this 7 years ago, whatever it was. And I was president of Magento, took it from 30 people to about 350, and through the eBay sale. Company I sold to Amazon, speaking of, sold it to Amazon early on in the curve, and we'll touch on some of these other ones. Okay, so here's the things that we're going to go over. State of Union of Retail, and I want to talk about my core pillars. These are the things that I talk about a lot with these things of building great companies, right? They're common. If you've seen me speak before, you'll know these are core to what I believe. If you were here in Magento and you feel it here in Magento, you'll see, okay, I get it. These things are core to what he believes are the way to build a great company. We're going to look at actionable ways to deploy this that you can actually use. We'll go into a couple kind of case studies on it. And we're going to talk about Wildebeest. We're going to talk about Wildebeest, whether you want to or not. And then we're going to talk about this guy. All right? The 800-pound gorilla that's in the room. And we're going to talk about whether he's a friend or whether he's a foe or she. And we're going to build a big wall around him. And we're going to see what we can do. And I did want to share this. I was going through my, do you guys remember Rolodexes? Right? So I moved a bunch of times, and I stuffed in business cards, and I went through it, and I found this business card. This is actually the back of my business card. I met Jeff when he moved to Seattle. I'm a Seattle native, living down in LA now, and I met Jeff and his wife. Well, I met Jeff at a party, and then we went out. I was selling PCs online. I started selling things online before the internet, back in the Prodigy days. You guys, anybody Prodigy, right? EVNS 88A. And Jeff and I started talking, and I went out to lunch with he and his wife, and they had about 12 engineers. And he said, hey, I really could use a marketing guy. And you've been selling things online. I was selling PCs online. And he goes, I really could use your help. I'd give you $50,000 and a lot of stock. I had a wife. I have a wife. I had kids. I still have kids, right? And I'm like, I can't afford to do that. And the punchline to that is if I had said yes to Mr. Jeff at that time, I probably would own this hotel and a lot of other ones. But this is one of my takeaways, other than selling him a company a couple years later, was I have Jeff Bezos' Alpha business card. He had no business card. Amazon.com, in case you didn't know, internet bookstore, his wife, I kind of blocked this out, so just in case, I haven't dialed those numbers lately, but just in case. Okay, so let's talk about building a huge wall around our friend. here and what we can do about it, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about the State of the Union of retail, okay? So this is not hard to find information. It's not hard to find these headlines. These I ripped out, I think, just yesterday and just threw them up, right? Gap's shares plummet, PacSun files for bankruptcy, Nordstrom, even my icon, Nordstrom, they cut a couple hundred jobs, and there's more information behind that. And Uniqlo. So these are epic retailers. These are traditional retailers. I don't even like using the word brick and mortar because it demeans them. Brick and mortar stores, these are powerful things. And by and large, we all know 10% of sales is online. 900 times the revenue still comes from this side of the field. 9 times, right? 900 times. 900% more. So what's been going on here? The internet has been chewing away at retail, as we know. And what's really been going on is it's created this price competitive nature. And the retailers, Blake Nordstrom and I, CEO of Nordstrom, spoke a couple weeks ago. He goes, you know what's going on? He goes, all the competitors, you get out there and you got to start, you start getting competitive. You start discounting, and if you start discounting, people fall into this death spiral, and it turns into a game of commoditization. And he said, online has become too efficient, but it's scrubbing the experience out of retail, okay? And I do believe if you strip all of retail away, you shut down every retailer that existed today, brick and mortar, traditional retail, for sure, there would be smart people like in this audience that would go, I have an idea. They would use technology. They do interesting things to weaponize retail as it is. Okay, so online retail, what's going on? Well, for God's sakes, we're the heroes, or we think we are, right? We're the big champions, right? And we're the ones, right, that are growing up and to the right. And but then you see things like this. Flash sales die. Fab. Okay, so Fab had $1 billion. Unicorn, right? Sold for $15 million. Gilt sold for $250. They raised, I think, almost $300 million. Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about on this is what's going on. There's nuances to this we're going to get to in the next slide or two. But what you're seeing is hyper growth capital being invested into online companies. Where we're going to be talking about is the power of building a brand and what you need to do to build a brand with deep roots. You cannot grow with hyper capital that you get from venture. Fab was a phenomenal company. Anybody shop from Fab when it was there? Oh, it just had great products. And it had to grow because it got venture capital, and it was forced to grow too fast. Venture money will not let you stop at 50 million, 100 million. It will not let you stop. You've got to go hard and fast. So it's almost like if you know anything about certain weed killers are actually, some of them are hyper-fertilizer. So plants grow too fast, but they die, okay? So this is everything that's going on online, and everybody, we're the champs. We're online. We're champs. We're e-commerce. We're good. We're safe. And then this happens, right? Wait. But wait, what's going on here, right? And so here's something I want to think about. You'll see him, you're going to have this guy, the fat cat from Wall Street, show up a couple times. So if you understand Wall Street is a transactional business, right? It's all based on moving money. Any way I can move money, if I got to move that money again and again and again, I make money. If it goes up, I make money. If it goes down, I make money. No offense to Wall Street. I actually, out of college, Drexel, Burnham, Lambert, and I was there. So I do have some insights to it, too. Housing crisis. We've seen the movie. We lived through it, right? Wall Street created financing vehicles that made it simple for mortgages to be written that were not quality, that started to spin up this hyperinflated capital called housing. And we all took out mortgages. We bought cars. We bought TVs, right? And then it changed. I contend, in some sense, same thing's going on in creating a retail crisis. So what do I mean by that? I mean that funding mechanism right now, and it's maybe not Wall Street as much as venture and kind of later stage growth, but they're plowing, and it goes back to Internet One. Internet One, we had a fraction of the audience. And when we were building customer bases on the audience, we were throwing money at people because it was all about customer acquisition, and it wasn't that big. We decided, let's do free shipping. Let's not charge taxes. Let's do all those things, right? And mostly because we had the capital. We had major capital from Wall Street, I'll call it from the venture, giving it into, at the end of the day, today especially, we're just retailers. We're just merchants. And I say that with a lot of deep love because I love retailers and merchants. So I contend that that's facilitating what's going on there. So if you take it at its closest level, the 800-pound gorilla, and you look at this and you say, isn't Amazon just really Rackspace plus Walmart? Two great companies. But really, at the end of the day, they've got a massive online presence for consumer purchasing, and they've got their cloud-based AWS and et cetera. Not demeaning, but they're trading at a 485 times earnings. Jeff does not have to make money. My buddy Blake Nordstrom, CEO of Nordstrom, 15 times earnings. He's like, gee, golly, I can't compete. I can't do that. I need to use my money because Wall Street will punish me. Jeff, Wall Street's going, hey, you go for it. Okay? So we're gonna come back to this a little later on. So now I want to start building our wall, right? Number one, if you've seen me speak before, the number one thing you need to do is build a brand, right? I want a brand, and I'm going to call it a soulful brand. So what do I mean? My dad, when I grew up, he's in the insurance business, and he used to say, Bob, products are bought and products are sold. Products are bought and products are sold. He said, if you are buying a car, you buy auto insurance. It's a bought product. And bought products are information-based, feature-based, and a lot of times become commodities, and it's price, 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 and you're competing against these guys. If you buy life insurance, it becomes more sold. I had a kid, I think I should. Somebody's got to sit down, tell me about it, advise me, and it becomes a sold product where he's telling me the story. Hey, Mr. Smith, someday you could die, and et cetera, and it's a story-based sale, right? It's more emotional. It's about the whole value. It's beyond features and function, and it's not about price. It's about story. There's great brands that do that every day. So I contend you want to build a brand, and you want to build a brand with a soul. So you got a brand, johnsshoes.com. Not a brand, that's a name. You want it to be a brand, but it's a name, okay? To me, a brand has a soul, okay? It's to give life to the body. This was the definition I found. Give life to the body and believe it to live forever. So your brand, your name becomes a brand when it stands on its own. When somebody sees it and they get the heartbeat, something happens to them emotionally, right? And the further you can move over towards giving life to your brand, the bigger that wall is of competition. Either that or you're going to have to compete directly with Amazon and Walmart and Target. And that's not a problem, but you better be really good or not want to get too big and just kind of play in the small spaces. This is my friend Nick Graham. Nick founded Joe Boxer, so he built it to over $1 billion company and sold it. Nick did crazy stuff like sent underwear into space, drove a tank into Times Square, just crazy stuff back before the internet to create a brand and a brand energy and a story around Joe Boxer. My favorite quote, the brand is the amusement park, the product is the souvenir. The brand is the amusement park, product, souvenir. You go to Disney, you're in the amusement park, you play, you have fun, you smell the popcorn, your kids are laughing, and you buy that little Mickey Mouse doll. You take it home. 3 months later, you pull that Mickey Mouse doll out. It's not a doll. It's all those experiences you had back then. It brings out emotion to you. You have put a soul in it, and so I love the brand is the amusement park, the product is the souvenir. Okay? So when you think about brands, look at this. Beats. They just make headphones. They sold for $2 billion? Two, right? 3. Sorry, I was off by $1 billion. Just 1. I was off by 1. Nike. Nike sells shoes, but wow, the prices that they can get and what they can do with that product. Red Bull. Okay, don't they skydive out of space? Isn't that what Red Bull is? It just happens to make a drink. Apple, I don't know if Apple's up there, right? We all buy Apple computer products. Feature, function, price. We're dumb, but we buy the brand because it's quality, it's story, and et cetera. Costco, and this is my proof point that Costco, I wanted to bring up Costco, doesn't have to be premium. When I think about Costco, I kind of get excited. I start to sweat a little bit. I get anxious. I want a deal. I want to go in there and I just want to buy, fill up my cart full of toilet paper and go home and feel like I'm ready for the winter, right? These are true brands, and the brands themselves have a life. And I put Magento, I just slid it in there. I promised the people at Magento I wouldn't dive into any of this too far, but Magento, when we birthed Magento, and when Roy and I 6 years ago decided we needed an event, and we came up with the name Imagine, et cetera, I said, look, there's one purpose for this, or we had a single goal. When you came into Imagine, from the moment you walk in to the moment you leave, all we wanted to do is elevate your energy level and let you do business. Get out of your way. Magento, when we were starting to roll it out across the world, we kind of said, I don't want to be a boring enterprise software company. I don't want feature, function, price. I want to create an energy, and we've got this community. We've got this open source. Let's take advantage of it. And you guys know the results. You saw a lot of it today, right? There's one note that I put in there. We architected the, never mind. I'll get to that later. So true culture is one of the bricks in the next part of your wall. And what I want to do is, when I'm talking about true culture, I want to use Nordstrom as an example. So Nordstrom hired me in 96, 97. They said, I had been selling PCs online, kind of went in and fixed the company. We sold it to Amazon, and they came knocking at my door. And they said, hey, would you do this? Would you help us go online? I said, I don't want to be a W-2 employee. I'm having fun with this internet-y thing. They said, no, you come in. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to launch. I want you to build. I want you to scale Nordstrom.com as a business, and then we're going to spin it off as a separate company, right? That was my mission, and that's what I did. But what I want to share with you, and we'll get back to the spin-off on the last slide on this Nordstrom section, I want to share with you what they built there and what I found out. So Nordstrom, whether you know it or not, it's a multi-billion-dollar fashion and apparel company here in the United States. And they are in the aspirational to luxury category. They've got, I think, like 150, maybe 200 stores now, depending if you count on the racks. When Nordstrom went across the United States, started up in Seattle, my hometown, then moved down to Oregon, then to California, then over to DC on the East Coast. Nordstrom had the lore and the brand of customer service. As Nordstrom marched across the United States, people panicked. CEOs panicked, and they wrote memos, not emails, but memos saying, tomorrow, number one for everybody is customer service. And I remember talking to the Nordstrom family. They're like, you just can't write a memo and have that happen. It's got to be endemic into your culture, right? At Magento, our culture was enabling everybody else's success. Here, it's customers number one. When I was there, I was taught nothing comes out of my mouth unless it ends in for the customer. Well, why are you building this thing online? Because we want to be there for our customer. If we're not there, our competitor will be there. It's better service for the customer. Everything, including, you've seen organizational charts, CEO at the top, everything goes down. You push all the information downward. Nordstrom is opposite. Blake Nordstrom sits at the bottom. He's there to support everybody up to the customer. And at the very top is the most important person next to the customer, and it's the sales talent. And at the end of the day, what they're doing is empowering their salespeople to take control and make choices. They're all up there, and with that, they've had, how can I say it? Customer service is not, hi, can I help you? It's customer service is set when shit goes wrong. How do you handle it? This allows the sales talent to take action. There's stories of people rolling in tires to Nordstrom. They don't sell tires. We'd like to return these. We'll take them back. There's stories of opening up stores and people out there with boxes, and it's a man and a wife, and they come in and they said, hey, our aunt died a couple months ago. We went into her closet. We'd like to return all these things. Come on in. We'll take it back. Nordstrom, actually, in doing that, they never ran national ads. They were almost one of the first word-of-mouth companies out there because I would tell the story, they would tell other stories, and it built deep trust. So they created a lore around service by putting it deep into their culture. This was their employee handbook. This was their employee handbook up until about 15 years ago. I mean, we were getting pretty legal. This is it. Rule number 1, use good judgment in all situations. And actually, there was another one that said, rule number 2, if you're confused, see rule number 1. That's it. That's it. Because they wanted to enable and empower everybody to make good decisions and put the onus and the responsibility on them. So I'm going to get back to when we spun off Nordstrom.com. So this gets back to my friend here on Wall Street. Why did we do that? Why would you spin off an asset? Now, don't forget, dot-com bubble was taking off. Amazon had huge market cap. Everybody had these hyperinflated stock values. In Nordstrom, we're over here kind of, gee golly, our stock trades 1 times revenue. Every dollar we spent was a real dollar. We went and visited John Doerr from Kleiner Perkins and Bill Gurley from Benchmark, and they both told us the same thing. If you're going to go into this market, you need war capital. You need the same hyperinflated capital to compete with the pure plays that are out there. And I always looked at Nordstrom as we can compete because if we're a big, smart company, we have a lot of weapons. But there were some other reasons why we spun off, and we took $15 million from Benchmark. And the reason we did that, we didn't need the money. But Nordstrom was known as a technological laggard at that time, and we wanted Wall Street to know that we had somebody at our shoulders. I haven't shared a lot of these stories with a lot of people. But the next thing I did is I'm like, oh, if we're going to make an announcement to the world, we're going to tell everybody we're spinning off Nordstrom.com. You know, we're a big public company and a well-known brand. Everybody's going to be listening. We're taking money from Benchmark. Everybody's going to be listening, but they don't care about that. Our customer doesn't care. But I figured if everybody's leaning and listening, I want to hit them with a bolt that they'll remember. They may not remember. They'll remember Nordstrom.com. Yeah, I got to go visit it, and et cetera. I think they were online anyway. But we decided we were going to be, Amazon was our neighbor. Nordstrom at one time had the world's biggest shoe store in Seattle. I said, we're going to claim that again. So we launched NordstromShoes.com at the same time. And I actually had a team that went around and taught Kenneth Cole Haan, everybody how to do pick, pack, and ship so they could deliver straight to our customer, drop ship. It was all brand new. Or I used the Dell model. I said, Kenneth Cole, if you can't do it, put it right there in inventory right next to our inventory, and we'll manage it for you. We went live with 20 million pairs of shoes. And what I didn't realize, because in some sense, I'll say it, I'm a guy. I didn't realize the passion around shoes in the female world, right, at that time. So at the end of the conference, I always had a cluster of women. All they wanted to do was talk about really cool stuff that they're doing with their shoes, how they're storing it, and have we thought about that. It was an interesting thing, but you can see we spun off an asset in Nordstrom. Now, we rolled it back. Nordstrom.com for Nordstrom. NordstromDirect.com does about $2.5–3 billion a year today. But we rolled it off as a separate asset because it was driven by Wall Street. Wall Street was feeding these pure play competitors hyper-inflated capital. Okay? So the next brick I want to lay up, I'll just call it the 97%. Okay? This is part of building our huge wall. Let me show you what this means. I'm going to change the way you're thinking about this too. You guys know exactly what this is. You live this, right? Every day you freaking live this, the conversion funnel. And you deploy all these things, retargeting, recommendation engines, speed check, upsell, all those things, all to go from 3% conversion rate, 4%, 2%, to go to from 3 to 3.0000001, and you're excited, right? Well, my question is, what are you doing for these guys? Not to get political again, but the 97%. What are you doing for them? You paid to have them come to your site. They got you because they know about you, they heard about you, and all you're trying to do is all this so you can take 0.00001, like a finger, and shove it through the conversion funnel. I contend what we're talking about is this brand and building soul and engagement is the most important thing, and you have to change from being a commodity where you're fighting for ROI and sales. Don't ignore it, but move towards building a lasting brand and a value proposition. Okay, Schwartz, I get it, but I got a boss. I got a boss, and I'm going to get ground down on it, okay? So my contention here is if I gave you a choice and you were a retailer, I could give you the best location anywhere in the United States to open up a store, or I could give you the keys, your brand. I'm going to call you a brand, right? Best corner, New York, wherever it is, or I'm going to give you the keys to CNN globally. You're the only one that'll tell your story. You should take this all day long. You should take the keys to CNN so you can tell your story all day long and shout, because nobody else will, versus a single store. So I've had companies, I've had consumer-facing companies and retail companies, from Nordstrom to a couple aspirational luxury ones. And when I get in front of the board or a boss, they look at me like, okay, what's our ROI on our marketing spend? And what I quickly realize is they don't quite understand the way they need to look at it. And so I started preaching the 3-bucket strategy. Not novel, but when you're having conversations with people, this is the way you need to look at it for yourself, and having conversations with the people that allocate the budget, so you can take time to build a brand and throttle things the same way. You create a bucket or a class that's all ROI proven. You set the ROI, you set the margin, you decide where that's going to be. Is it at 30%? Is it 40%? Is it at 120%? And it's all lifetime customer value. You put everything marketing dollar into there until that ROI gets tipped, and you say, this is ROI positive. That's where we're going to put all that. And you say, tell the people that are working with you, here's the ROI return that we're getting for hard dollars spent on that. If we turn those off immediately, all those sales stop. But we're making money on that. The next thing I want you to do is you tip up a testing bucket, and you allocate money to it every month. You go, look, we're going to put 10 grand a month in testing. We're only going to return 75% of that. But out of that, we're going to find nuggets to dump into the ROI bucket and keep it going, okay? And based on our margin, 75%, we're okay. So the magic here is, if you start to blend those two things, your ROI and your strategy looks bad to the people you're reporting to and you're getting the capital from, and you can't take time to build a brand. Last bucket, we all know, spend some money against branding and kind of the bigger story. Maybe it's a social story. But when you do that, the cool thing is you can say, hey, look, we're going into a tough quarter. I'm going to throttle back on brand. We'll be fine, right? And throttle it up and down. But this is something that's worked to explain. It's a strategy you may deploy anyway, but communicating it I'll say, downward in Nordstrom world, downward to explain to them how your budget's working. It'll help you get there. Here's another thing. How many people have been in this business, I'll call it selling online, 10 years or more? Do you remember when you started, the old guard, the IT guy or the merchant or whatever, and they said, we don't do it that way. We'll never do that. It won't work. It'll never work. Okay, here's my contention. We're now the old guys, if you're not careful. I talk to people that work with me all the time. They're like, you'll hear things like, we could never send an email out more than once a week. I'm like, no, you could send out an email every second of the day as long as there's value to it, right? Less clicks, must be this, and et cetera. And no, we can never have stores. Well, we know all that's changing. So I'm going to tell you to be really careful if you want to build a brand and you want to be defensible against the commoditization out there. You need to start to question everything and become the new guard again, okay? Weaponization of retail. It used to take $3 million and about 3 years to build software before you had anything live to go show, right? Today, we can be live in 30 days, be global, be shipping product globally, sourcing product globally. I can go to 99 Designs and get some funky little logo, throw it up there, and be good to go. We need to now weaponize with technology, but it's changed. It used to be when we launched Magento, technology was still, you could create a competitive advantage with technology. You could beat other technology people if you had the right technology and the others didn't. Today, tech is a must-have. I need to get great at it or I die. Okay? It's a must-have, but it's not the answer anymore. You can't create the technological differential anymore, but you need to find the best-in-class providers like a Tamando, like a Magento, like a lot of the companies that you're seeing here today, and use them because it's changed. Things have changed where it's back to, perfectly, you're a merchant. I kind of tell the story once in a while. If my buddy Blake Nordstrom, do you think he'd be sitting at a construction convention looking at wallboard and electrical circuits and things like that? It's a store, right? It's got to be good. It's got to be well designed. But at the end of the day, he's a merchant. He's building product. He's building brand. He's building customer relationships. That becomes the most important thing. It's beyond just technology. Tamando, I got involved with Tamando. I've known Carl for a couple years, and you saw them announced today as one of the premier partners. Premier? Yeah, and really proud what they've done. But I'll tell you a story on Australia. They're born on Australia, and think about it, size of the United States. You got cities disparate all over Australia, but it's got the economy of California. Okay, so the retailers there, they couldn't tip up pick, pack, and ship centers, 3PL centers. They couldn't dedicate that kind of inventory. They had to figure out, hey, mate, how are we going to ship from store? How are we going to do all those? And Carl saw that opportunity, and he actually built technology that wired together Australia from delivery to fulfillment to in-the-cart intelligence and et cetera, and allowed Australia to function the way they need to. Pick up at store, click and collect, all those things, right? The interesting thing here, if you're from the United States, is we've been sloppy. We got really good at the merchandising layer, right? We got really good at the merchandising layer, right? The 3 layers. So first you got to merchandise, Magento, right? Then you got to take payments. PayPal seems to be it. PayPal, Braintree, or whatever. We got to take payments. And then fulfillment. Well, we used to just dump it to FedEx, dump it to UPS. They want another quarter of shipment. All right, we'll get it right. But it's a giant cost center. We're past that now. We're now looking at it. Now we're like, okay, I got to optimize my costs. And so Tamando had already built that for Australia, and it is now, as I like to say, rolling it out across the world with their partner Neopost, which is a multi-billion-dollar French company that's enabled us to do great things, and we've got great traction going on in Europe. I'm on the board of Tamando, but this is a weapon that's able to service you as a merchant to plugging everything across from click and collect, from carts to fulfillment, delivery, and returns. Okay, and this is the final brick in our wall. I should have that playing, right? So good, not greed. And again, this gets back to building a brand with a soul. And this is one way to do it. So I get a lot of youth that shows up at my door wanting mentorship, 20 to 30-year-olds. And a lot of times they come in and they're like, hey, I'd like to pick your brain. I want to talk about a career change. I want to do something. And they're from Wall Street. They're from different companies. And they're like, would you introduce me to Tom's? And if you don't know Tom's is a brand that was built. You buy a shoe, they give one, right? They give one to somebody who can't afford it in a third world country, right? And I'm like, why are all these kids coming in and they all want to now just do good? They want to do good for the world. So one of my philosophies was in the first 10 years of life, their media impressions was this. Jets, cars, this guy, those guys, boats, big houses, and greed is good, if you remember the Wall Street thing, and rich and famous. More. As parents, this is what they saw us doing, and they model what we do, and they get to understand it. That was in the first 10 years of their life. Now in the next knowledge 10 years of their life, they see the ramifications. We have the mortgage crisis. We go to war. We got all that kind of problems. The idea of excess over here equals this. I don't want any part of it. And that's where I left it until I started having a conversation with somebody. I told somebody, hey, you know what I did? When I was looking at my first house, I walked in there with my wife, and we were snooping around. And I remember opening up one of the bedroom doors. This is 25 years ago. Open up one of the bedroom doors. I'm like, honey, I think this person's an Olympic athlete. So in my career, my growing up, I won 1 trophy. These kids today, everybody's a winner. Everybody gets trophies. Everybody gets medals. Okay? So this is that same demographic. The people that are under 30, under 35, under 40, if it matters to you, everybody is a winner. And in their mind, why should it not be fair? Why should people in Africa go without food? Why should people go without shoes? So it's actually deep within them. And it can be a really powerful brick, the idea of doing good. Here's some companies that are doing good. I've got a relationship with One Hope, and Good 360 is a not-for-profit I'm on the board of. We take in product from major corporations like Costco and Walmart and Bed Bath & Beyond and Tempur-Pedic. They give us product, excess, surplus, returned inventory, and we make it easily available for not-for-profits. Basically for free. They just pay for shipping and handling. We moved over $360 million of product last year to not-for-profits to help everybody else do better. We've moved $9 billion to date. Doing good is real, and it will have a powerful impact. So here's the bricks we built so far. New Guard, Weaponize, Greed Not Good, Culture, 97%. And at the bottom, which kind of echoes all of these things, is the idea of building a soulful brand, right? So now I promised we'd build the wall, and I said we're going to get Amazon to pay for it. Okay, that's the tricky part. I lied. No. Here's what I propose. If you think about what I talked about with Wall Street, Amazon has war capital and is able to spend infinite amount of money against competitors. You think about the competitive set that went out of business, Circuit City, Best Buy, all these guys. Okay, I contend, and I'm in this business just like you, I contend consumers should be paying for shipping. They should get free returns. We should be taxing everybody long ago, some odd number like 5%, just to say we're good, right? Amazon hasn't had to play to those spectrums because they've had hyperinflated capital. Why? Why? Because Wall Street thinks, Jeff's good, Jeff came from Wall Street thinks it's a technology company. But to me, it's Walmart plus Amazon. So the key to getting Amazon to pay for this is somehow changing the perception of Wall Street on what they believe Amazon's is. And if you look at what's happening, the 400 stores, and you're looking at Amazon's price, it's changing. They're now paying tax. It's all coming together. But I contend the way you end up emaciating the gorilla and flying them out is by changing Wall Street's perception of what Amazon is, right? And getting it back to a market parity, because it is a great company, but to me it is Walmart and it is Rackspace. And it's a great company, but I think the idea of the multiples, it's hurt us. I mean, those competitors, there's companies that should be out of business all day long anyway, but there's ones that probably shouldn't. And there's ones that grew that should never have grown and died because they had hyperinflated capital. So that's the wall, and that's the strategy I'm proposing today. There's one other thing I want to share with you, I promise, and it's called the Wildebeest theory. So, Wildebeest. So I'm talking to Blake Nordstrom, and a couple weeks ago, and he had just announced he was laying off some technologists, and he said, hey buddy, I want to talk you through some of this. So we were talking about it, and we were talking about Amazon, and he's like, dude, he goes, I have to make money. I got to report to the shareholders. I got to make money. Amazon doesn't. He goes, it's killing me. And I was talking to Ken Warzel, our chief, our corporate development, the guy that does a lot of their deals. And Ken said, yep, instead of competing, what if we're all just wildebeests? What if we're all just wildebeests? And Amazon is the lion. And Amazon, and everything I said is good, but at the end of the day, Amazon's running after this, swiping down the slowest wildebeest, chowing it down, and then moving on to the next one, and the next one. And here at Nordstrom, we just happen to be, we happen to be one of the wildebeests at the front of the pack, right? And so this is actually Pete Nordstrom. I sent them, after I heard that story, a lion and a wildebeest, and it's in the Nordstrom, it's in Ken Warzel's office. But there is something about that. But I would even contend, then be a wildebeest at the front of the pack, and let the slower guys get chowed while we're trying to figure all this stuff out, right? Okay, so one other thing, I did want to mention this. Tamando's got a contest going on, trip to Australia, just have something fun. It's RealCommerce, and there's shopping cart abandonment going on there. Just put something up and have some fun with it. Yeah, it's pretty good. So I hope you had fun. I hope my perspective helped out. The takeaways I'm hoping you'll take away is build a brand, look at long-term value. There's some tools in this that we talked about. It's my hope that when you go forward throughout the day and you get back to your house and you have your lanyard sitting there, my hope is kind of like Nick Graham said, I'm hoping you'll see the lanyard and you'll think back to Imagine, and you'll go, you know what? I did learn something during that Schwartz conversation. That's my hope, is you took away some long-term strategy. I produced some of these hats. There seems to be a little bit of a buzz about these hats right now, so I actually had somebody, see if I can do this right, tip up a website, makeretailgreatagain.com. We're taking pre-orders. 100% of it goes to, profits go to Good 360. And I have a small amount of them here, and we're going to be giving them away. Anyway, I want to thank you all for your time. If you got any questions, I got a couple minutes, but I'm good. Thank you.